Hello everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's MTPredictor video, I'd like to take a look at a 3 and 15 minute chart of the ES to show a nice trade that's recently unfolded, a W3 or Wave 3 trade setup. I'd also like to look at a losing trade and actually show you how it's important or why it's important to keep your losses small in relation to your profits. But before we start that, we have to have a look at our risk disclaimer and remind you that all examples in these videos should be considered as hypothetical. No trades are actually taken, they're just shown for training, illustration and training purposes only. Remind you there's a risk of loss in trading investing. Put another way, all professional traders know and understand, but more importantly accept that losses can and will and do unfold. Right, this is our standalone version. We also have add-ons for TradingView as well as add-ons for NinjaTrader 8. But I'd like to have a look at what's unfolded this morning on a 24-hour chart of the ES. This is the 3-minute chart. You can see we've had some setups here, including a history triangle here. Now, for those of you who are new to MTPredictor, we're not a black box system. We don't take all our signals blindly as if it's a black box where we trade 100% of the time. What we're looking to do is we're looking to only trade when the picture's clear, and that is when it's clear on the higher time frame chart. So for a higher time frame, we go to a time frame between 3 and 5 time frames higher. So in this case, you'd go out to a 15-minute chart. If I take the market back for a little bit here, what we do is we use previous swing highs or lows. Once you become a customer, we actually teach you which exact pivots to use, but in this case it would have been that prior pivot there. So if I right mouse click, do decision point, can you see how that's on the chart in advance? In other words, it's there before the market even gets there. We're not projecting it or anticipating it's going to get there, we're just saying that if the market gets there, let's see what it does. So if I turn trading mode off, you can see this is what the ES did indeed do. It went up to that level and made a high. When it does that, we deem that the picture's clear because the market is doing what we anticipated or what we projected. This is where we then come down to our 3-minute chart. Now, can you see how this looks on a 3-minute chart? Well, there's our 15-minute resistance, you can see. So the market went up to that level and started to back off. In other words, it said to us, yes, I'm finding resistance at your level. In other words, I'm doing what you anticipate, therefore the picture is starting to become clear. So therefore, after this, we then deem that the large degree trend is down. Our MTP trend agreed with this, turning red here to show that the trend was down. So therefore, we'd be looking for sell setups. Now, there was a history triangle here. Do you see this? These are setups that would have been filled on the next bar and then stopped out immediately. Not all history triangles are setups, and there are some videos on that in other parts of the website, but you can see this allows you to place analysis on at the time to see what would have happened. So here you'd have been just clipped in there and then stopped out. The market went straight back up and then stopped you out for a loss. This is the important part of trading, is that accepting that losses can and will and do unfold. No matter what trading approach you take, there always will be losing trades. But here we use position size. In this case, we're risking 2% of a sample $20,000 account. So this keeps your loss or your losing trades when they come through small, another one risk unit. If you have, say, a slightly smaller account, well, then obviously you'll then be able to trade less contracts. But losses can and will and do unfold. So this was a -1 hour loss. The market then came back up here a bit later. And can you see there's another history triangle? So if I right mouse click over this, do analysis, this then allows you to place the setup on the chart. Now this case, you were then taking into a short trade. It then came back up and it didn't stop you out. If I move that across there a bit, can you see that? That high there was 78 even. Our stop trigger was at 78.25, so this would have not stopped you out. So in other words, this history triangle was slightly different to that one in that it was a double top and we would not have been stopped out. In other words, this trade would have still been live as it went down to the first target. But now look at the difference now, is that this was a profitable trade and we had a losing trade earlier. So one loss, one profit. But look at this. This is the important part, is where the profit target is. The profit was just over 6 times greater than the initial risk. In other words, it was just over 6 times greater than the previous loss. So this is what we're looking to do with MTPredictor. We're not looking to avoid trades because we know and understand and accept that basically losing trades happen. They're impossible to avoid, but the trick is keeping them small. But then on the other side of the coin, when the profits come through, it's then important to let the profits run and have profits that are large, not just in dollars, but large in relation to the initial risk. This is why we always look at our profits in risk-reward units. And as you can see, this was a great example where the market came down here. If you weren't stopped out, or sorry, if you weren't taking your profit at that particular level because it just hit the level, you would certainly have been here. So either way, you should have actually come out with a profit of just over 6R. So hopefully this has been a good example of what we do here at MTPredictor with a look on the 3-minute ES, where we go to the higher time frame chart to place our DPs on, to then look to trade in that direction of the large degree trend. By the way, you'll have noticed there were some buy setups here. I haven't talked about these. Why? Because if I go to the higher time frame chart, here's our last pivot low. So if I right mouse click here, do decision point, can you see how the market has not yet reached this support? Therefore, the large degree trend, if anything, would still be deemed to be down. So this is why it's important to use the higher time frame DPs, because you can see here there's the higher time frame support and not just our MTP trend color. This is why we're not a black box system. This is why we don't just take all setups perhaps in the direction of the MTP trend color. We require that the market makes a reversal of the higher time frame support and resistance. So in this case, you'd be avoiding these buy setups and only taking these sells. And as we've seen already, that would have resulted in a losing trade here, which would have been -1R loss. Then we had another setup come in here, which then would have produced a profit, but more importantly, that profit was just over 6 times the initial risk. So hopefully a good example of MTPredictor in action on the ES earlier today.